As a small business owner, have you ever felt overwhelmed by the pressure of choosing the right hire or leading a team? Or have you ever found yourself tolerating a bad hire because you fear trying and failing again as you repeat the hiring process? If so, you're not alone, and you are in the right place. Welcome to the Growing Your Team podcast. The Growing Your Team podcast teaches business owners like you to expand your unique business by teaching you to master the hiring and team management process. Hiring and managing a team does not have to be a challenge. You just have to learn to do it right. And the Growing Your Team podcast teaches you how to become a confident leader who hires right every single time. Now, let's jump into the show where each episode you will learn tips on how to identify what type of help you need on your team, how to source amazing candidates, how to conduct interviews that lead you to your ideal team member, how to onboard successfully, and how to lead every person in your business so you have a team of rock stars who you are happy to pay every single paycheck. So let's jump in and teach you how to hire like a pro. Hello, Jamie Van Kuyk here, and welcome back to the Growing Your Team podcast. All right, so today I want to talk about 5 things I wish I knew before I ever made my first hire. These are things that, luckily for me, I was hiring for the first time in corporate, which provided a little bit more cushion. It provided people that were there, senior leaders, to guide me through the process. We had a great HR team. And at the end of the day, if mistakes were made, it wasn't my dime. So it provided this great learning environment and a lot of cushion. But I will say, even in corporate, where there should be a lot of training and a lot of guidance, I still learned a lot through trial and error. I hired people I shouldn't have. I put people through to final interviews that I shouldn't have. I probably said no to candidates that I should have hired, but I learned, and I learned the hard way, which is what a lot of people do, through trial and error, which is part of the whole reason I run this business. I don't want you learning through trial and error. I want you learning through guidance and education. So here are the 5 things that I learned when making my first hire that I think are super important for you to know. They are the 5 things I wish I knew before I ever posted that first position. So first is, there's no room for emotions in the hiring process. We cannot hire someone simply because we have a connection. We cannot hire someone simply because we want to be the hero in their story. We need to hire people because they are the right fit for our opening. In our small businesses, we are sometimes going to have openings that are very entry level, where you don't need a whole lot of skills, or we can really tap into transferable skills. And we can be more open to who we hire and give that person who is brand new out of college a chance, or things like that. That person that's switching careers, that family member that is really down on their luck. But we need to make sure if we're doing that, we're well prepared and we know what we're getting into ahead of time, and making sure that we're putting someone into the right position and not using our business as a charity that is going to be giving money to someone who is not right for the opening. We need to make sure if we hire someone that doesn't have the skills that we need, that we have the ability to train them on the skills that we need them to have, and that they have the capacity to learn those skills. So emotions really don't belong in the process, because it could lead us to making hiring decisions that cost us in the long run. Someone who's not a good fit is never going to succeed in the role. And when they're not succeeding in the role, it's going to take a lot of our time and effort to engage with them and try to encourage them and so forth. So we need to make sure that we're keeping our emotions in check and hire based off of facts. I always say the one place for emotions is sometimes making that final decision. If you have 2 candidates that you absolutely love, and one, your emotions, your gut is saying go with this person over the other, go with them. You've already proven to yourself that they're the right person to have the job. You're just using your emotions to narrow it down. And I guess there is one other place with your emotions. If your emotions are telling you, heck no, do not hire this person, they will be horrible for you to work with. Listen, small businesses here, we can't have people on our team that drive us crazy. So if your emotions are telling you no, listen to the no. But if your emotions are telling you yes, make sure the facts are there too. Okay. Thing number 2 that I wish I knew. There are questions you cannot ask during an interview. There are things that are absolutely illegal for you to ask, and you could get into big legal trouble for asking. Pretty much anything that has to do with protected categories, so think religion, race, sexual orientation, age, and so forth, like those are protected categories. You cannot ask questions about them. I didn't know this when I started hiring. I remember going through an HR training with a lot of managers on the team, and this was probably well over a year after I became a manager and had been hiring pretty much continuously this entire year, and getting this piece of paper of, is this question legal to ask or not? And having to go through and with all these questions and just being shocked. And it was one of those things where I didn't know this at all. So it wasn't like, oh, okay, I knew this. I thought that question was okay, but it turns out it's not. It was, I didn't even know that there was such things as illegal questions to ask during an interview. And I couldn't believe that my corporation had put me in that spot where I could potentially be asking questions that could get the company into legal trouble. I felt like that training should have been before I was even allowed to step foot into an interview. What I tell my clients now, of course, we create interview guides, so they have exactly what to ask, but I always say the rule of thumb is, if it's personal, do not ask it. Make sure any question you ask has a business purpose, and we're not going into the personal side. So, for example, if you need someone that's working, let's say on Sundays, you run a cafe and you need workers to work on Sundays, and you want to make sure that their church obligations are not getting in the way. Well, the real purpose of asking a question is to make sure they're available to work on Sundays. So we can ask about their availability, but we're not going to ask if they attend church on Sundays, because it doesn't matter what they're doing that's going to make them available or not available. It just matters if they are available. Okay, thing number 3 that I wish I knew before I interviewed or hired my first employee. How important it is to be prepared. It was probably 3 years, maybe a little bit longer, before I ever stepped foot into an interview with a list of questions. I would just wing it. I got into a rhythm where I kind of knew what categories to ask questions on, but I had no prepared questions. I would change up questions based on whatever the candidate said to say, okay, let's still know about this. Some interviews were really short and some interviews were really long. There was no rhyme or reason behind what I asked besides, I'm curious. The problem with this is, how can you really compare candidate A to candidate B if you don't have the same information? How can you really determine if someone is qualified for the role that you're hiring for if maybe you didn't ask the questions that actually uncover the qualifications that you need? We need to be prepared with set questions so we can properly evaluate candidates against the qualifications that actually matter for our opening, and so we can compare candidates against each other. Being prepared is so important. The quality of my interviews went up dramatically once I started going in with a prepared list of questions. And I will never conduct an interview for a job opening now without having a prepared list of questions. And it is the number one thing we provide our clients. And it's actually the document that we spend the most time on when we are preparing our clients to go conduct effective interviews so that way they can find their ideal candidates. Okay, so item number 4 on the 5 things I wish I knew before I started hiring employees. And this is, just because someone is good at what they do does not mean they're right for you. You've probably heard me say that before, but I just want to repeat it again because it's so important. Just because someone is good at what they do does not mean they're right for you. At Growing Your Team, this is really our focus. We help our clients make sure they're bringing in the person that can not only do the tasks, but fits into their culture, can fit into that business owner's working style and everything. And this was important. I remember having a team member very early on that came from a company who pretty much did very similar things to what we were doing. And this team member's role was almost exactly like the role that we did within our organization. It was one of the first times when I was interviewing someone where it was just like, has she worked here? Does she know exactly what's going on? Like, this is crazy how similar it was. And she was good at it at her last company. And we're just like, okay, this is who we need. This person's fantastic. We then brought her in and she struggled. And the reason she struggled was because while our general processes were the same, there were things that made our process unique. And those things that made it unique, the skills that you actually needed to navigate that uniqueness, didn't work. It was more kind of the culture and everything that it took to do the work. So she was a fantastic account manager, but she wasn't the right account manager for our systems and our processes and our culture. So it ended up being a disastrous fit, and she didn't stay that long because it wasn't the right job for her. She could be an account manager. She was a fantastic account manager, just not for us. And that is important. We have to not be swayed because someone has been amazing at their past jobs and overlook the fact that they will not be a fit for this current job. So making sure that not only are they good at what they do, but they are the right fit for our opening, our processes, our leadership styles, and everything else. And that brings us to number 5 on the list. So number 5 of the 5 things I wish I knew before I ever hired an employee was how to review a resume properly. I can tell you I reviewed most resumes very early on gut. Did I like it? Did I not? Was it organized well? Was it not? And I spent a lot of time reviewing resumes. The thing is, when you review resumes on your gut instinct versus actually having a method for reviewing resumes, it takes a lot of time. You're reading between the lines, you're creating stories in your head of what this candidate can or cannot do, or what they have done and what they have not done, versus just looking for what's important. I then felt like I spent a lot of time interviewing candidates that really weren't worth my time, that I probably could have knocked out of the running. I probably said no to a lot of candidates that were worthy of getting an interview because I didn't know what to look for. No one had ever taught me how to review a resume. The only thing I knew was what we did in the job and what my resume would look like. And that's kind of what I went off of. But we were hiring for a job that transferable skills were great. Not a lot of people did what we did, so we were just looking for the general skill set. Once I really learned how to review a resume and started using the methodology that now I teach all my clients, reviewing resumes went so fast. I was no longer spending hours reviewing 20 resumes, but getting 20 resumes reviewed in 30 minutes. It was so easy to identify who should get an interview and who shouldn't. I wasn't making up stories about candidates. I wasn't trying to read between the lines. I wasn't letting biases sway me. I wasn't just following my gut instinct that said, hey, this resume is pretty, let's give him a shot. I wasn't, discriminating, for or against anyone in the process. I was really looking at what mattered. Does this person have a background that aligns with what I'm looking for? Yes or no? Okay, yes, let's move on. No, let's not. So we really teach all our clients today to really look at the must-have items. What are those 3 must-have things on a resume that will signify that this person should get an interview? Do they have them? Yep. Okay, let's move them on. Do they not? Nope, they are a no. We move so fast through reviewing resumes, but we are more effective in reviewing resumes than when we spent more time dissecting them. So resumes don't need to be dissected. They just need to be reviewed for the right things. And I really wish I knew that early on, because I would have saved hours and hours and hours of time reviewing resumes, and also hours of time interviewing people that should have never gotten an interview in the first place. All right, so those are 5 things I wish I knew before I hired my very first employee and started doing interviews. Is there anything that you learned that you think should be added to this list? What have you learned? Send me an email. Let me know, jamie@growingyourteam.com. I want to know what you learned throughout your trial and error phase of hiring that we should tell people. And of course, if you need help in the hiring process, reach out. Growing Your Team is always here to support you, whether that's teaching you how to review resumes, helping you understand how to determine if someone is good for you, not just good at what they do, helping you be prepared, helping you to remove emotions from the process, or even teaching you just really what you should ask to uncover the right things, so that way you don't put yourself at risk by asking illegal questions. If you need help with any of that, reach out, send me an email at jamie@growingyourteam.com, and we will schedule a call and get you onto the pathway for successful hiring. Are you ready to hire a new team member for your business, and you want to ensure you hire the person who can succeed in the role, make you happy, and positively impact your bottom line? Then let's talk and see how growing your team can help you master the art of hiring. Through bespoke hiring frameworks and comprehensive guidance, you will learn how to attract candidates who have the passion you desire and the skills needed to succeed. At Growing Your Team, women entrepreneurs and leaders work with us to help them expand their unique businesses by teaching them how to hire like a pro. Let's connect and see how we can help you. Send me an email at jamie@growingyourteam.com. That's Jamie, JAMIE, @growingyourteam.com, or head on over to growingyourteam.com/jumpstart, with jumpstart being all one word, and let's talk about how you can become a confident leader who hires right every single time.